Today we'll talk about panic attacks and the 7 things we can do to prevent them. But before we get there, I'd like to make sure we all understand what panic attacks are and aren't. I'm aware that people frequently misuse mental health terminology to describe how they feel, such as, "Oh, that was so stressful, I had a panic attack." So here's a rundown of what a panic attack is. I know the DSM, or Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, isn't the be-all and end-all, but it's the best we've got. As a result, panic attacks are defined as a sudden surge of intense fear or discomfort that peaks within minutes. You have 4 or more of the following symptoms during that time: pounding heart, sweating, shaking, shortness of breath, feeling like you're choking, chest pain, nausea, dizziness, chills or heat sensations, numbness, derealization, fear of losing control or going insane, and fear of dying. That may seem like a lot, but you must have at least 4 of them. Panic attacks are not a diagnosis in and of themselves. However, panic disorder exists, and it includes us worrying about having a panic attack and taking precautions to avoid any situation that we believe could trigger one. Okay, now that we've defined panic attacks, let's look at how we can better manage them and possibly prevent them altogether. My first tip is to become more familiar with our anxiety symptoms. Everyone will experience their panic attacks differently, and as you have already heard, there are numerous symptoms. So it's a good idea to start keeping track of how you're feeling. Where exactly does your anxiety begin? Is it in our lungs? What will happen next? Do your thoughts and emotions begin to race? Then your palms start sweating. Are there any patterns or times of day when our anxiety increases? The more we understand about our anxiety, the faster we can recognize it and do something to calm ourselves down. And I understand that anxiety can seem to appear out of nowhere, and I'm not asking you to figure out why it started or what brought it on, but rather how it feels when your panic or anxiety is just starting or we feel it building up. This gives us more time to use our coping skills before a full-fledged attack occurs. This leads us nicely into my second tip, which is determining which coping skills calm us down the best, and we'll have to make time to do this when we feel calm and okay. We won't be able to think clearly or come up with anything if we're already anxious or feeling anxious. When we feel good, this is the time to work on it. And I know a lot of professionals and people say to try breathing exercises because they're the best and will help you. However, in my experience, they do not work at all and can even exacerbate anxiety. And the only reason I bring it up is so you don't feel obligated to use coping skills that don't work for you simply because someone says you should. It's best if we just try a few and see which ones make us feel better. Stretching, using a fidget toy or silly putty, coloring, talking to a friend, journaling, creating a new playlist, and many other activities are examples. I also want to emphasize the importance of having some coping skills that we can use at any time of day. We cannot, for example, always call or text a friend at 3 a.m. They may simply be unavailable because they are sleeping. As a result, we'll have to find alternative activities. So keep that in mind as you make your list and make sure you have at least 5 things you can do during the day and another 5 you can do in the middle of the night if necessary. When coming up with these ideas, it's also helpful to use our 5 senses. Someone in our community told me that a scent like lavender or bergamot is supposed to be a grounding sense, so maybe get your hands on that. However, those can help us relax, or cinnamon candy can draw our attention to its spiciness and away from perhaps worrying thoughts or taking a warm bath, looking at kittens online, or petting an animal. Consider how you can incorporate all 5 senses into your list of coping skills. My next suggestion is to seek additional assistance. Fighting our anxiety or attempting to avoid a panic attack can be difficult, if not impossible. It can be a game changer to have people in our lives who understand what we're going through and can offer support and reassurance when we need it. This could be a professional, such as a therapist, psychologist, or psychiatrist, but it could also be family and friends. I know many of us aren't comfortable talking about our anxiety, but we're going to have to choose at least one person we know would seek to understand us and be willing to help. Maybe it's a good work friend, a sister, a cousin, or someone from church. Whoever it is, we need to reach out and start talking slowly. We don't want to overload people with information all at once, but we can start a conversation and share as needed. That will put us on the right track as we work to overcome our panic attacks. A therapist is the best professional help if you're looking for support, because psychiatrists aren't always the warmest or most available people. They're doctors, and they frequently try to concentrate solely on our medication and how well we tolerate it. Finding a therapist who can provide tools and resources for the time between sessions is also important. They may also be able to refer you to an anxiety group therapy session, which could be beneficial. Another tip for avoiding panic attacks is to recognize situations or people that make us anxious and avoid them until we have better control over the symptoms. I'm not saying we should avoid these people forever, just until we have more effective skills. Then, we can use exposure therapy techniques to re-engage with them. Journaling, using a fidget toy, rubbing our hands, texting or calling a friend together, stepping out of the room for a second briefly, like I'm going to the bathroom real quick or offering to put the jackets away, are examples of these skills. We must determine what works best for us. So feel free to experiment with different ones until you find 5 to 10 that work for you. I'd also like to add to this tip that if we have any toxic relationships that make us feel anxious and bad about ourselves, I fully support you in ending them. We don't have to re-engage with our anxiety symptoms even if we get better at managing them. I just wanted to mention it because bad relationships are bad relationships, and it takes two to make a good one. We doing the work and getting better with our anxiety isn't going to magically make things better for them. That is not how it works. The next step is to find a safe or neutral location. Once you've gotten a better handle on your symptoms and can sense when they're coming on, we'll want to have our skills ready as well as a place in our minds that feels safe. I used to always ask my patients to suggest a safe location. That people with complex PTSD or any kind of PTSD symptoms may struggle to find a safe place because the word safe implies vulnerability, which can cause anxiety or fear. So a neutral location, such as making coffee, washing your face, brushing your teeth, or even folding laundry or running errands. Anything that feels neutral can be effective, or if you prefer, you can find a safe or happy place, such as a good memory or a cozy place that calms you down. So, just take some time to consider your options and then put them to the test. Visualize yourself in that location and assess whether it is calming or not. And if it isn't, let's try another one. My theory about anxiety is that it exists in our lives because we lack self-confidence and/or the ability to speak up for ourselves. As a result, my 6th tip is to start paying attention to what you say to yourself and using bridge statements like never before. Did you know that over 90% of the thoughts you have each day are thoughts you've already had? Did you hear what I said? We've probably had these thoughts before, for days, weeks, or even years. Check to see if the thoughts were allowing or balanced and kind, and bridge statements come into play because we all know we can't just pretend to love ourselves and feel confident, but we can be open to the possibility that we don't have all the facts. We might be making some assumptions, and we might be perceived as better than we thought. It is feasible. Bridge statements, you see, exist in the realm of possibilities, maybes, and colds. They keep us open to new ideas that are more balanced, fact-checked, and less critical. I understand that the work can be tedious and irritating, but believe me when I say that if we all took a week to check our most common thoughts, check the facts to back those thoughts up, and work to come up with some, maybe just a few bridge statements, we would all feel much calmer and less anxious. Finally, my 7th suggestion is medication. I'm not a psychiatrist, but medications such as SSRIs, SNRIs, antidepressants, and benzodiazepines can be a life raft when we feel like we're drowning in the symptoms of our panic disorder. This does not imply that we must continue to take them indefinitely, but sometimes our symptoms become unmanageable, and medication can help us feel a little better so that we can do the work that we need to do in therapy. If you believe that medication could help you overcome your anxiety, contact a psychiatrist in your area for more information and treatment options. I hope you found it useful. Panic attacks are extremely common, but I hope this video reminded you of all the ways we can prevent them from happening in the future, because it can and will get better with the right support and therapeutic tools. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you again soon.